Dr. Ayanda Pamella is going to be our next speaker. Dr. Ayanda Pamella holds a PhD from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Her PhD was on measuring e-learning systems at the higher education institution. She is an academic at Nelson Mandela University. She has 10 years of experience working in the public sector, 4 years of teaching experience and over 3 years of lecturing experience. She is the coordinator of undergraduate modules and a supervisor to postgraduate students. She is involved in the external and internal examination of MBAs. Dr. Pamella has established several papers on e-learning in the academic journals and conference proceedings. She has presented and chaired at national and international conferences. Let's go ahead and welcome her on board.
Good afternoon to all the delegates. My name is Ayanda Deliwe, and I am from Nelson Mandela University. I am a lecturer, senior lecturer / researcher at the university. Firstly, I just want to thank the IBU Forum for organizing this digital summit, because it's very important, especially now in the situation that we as higher education find ourselves in. So thank you very much for organizing this session and for inviting me to be one of the speakers. Today, I will be presenting on the relevance of higher education institutions during the fourth industrial revolution. So basically what I'll be looking at is, I looked at it from the African context, taking into account the many challenges that we face within the African context, and how can we prepare for the future of higher education during the fourth industrial revolution. So how do we remain relevant in the years to come? Now, looking at the fourth industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution is changing the way in which we work, it's changing our societies, and it is changing businesses. And this we have seen with a lot of businesses moving from the traditional business to online. With the Industrial Revolution, it is an occurrence that has an unpredictable, which is also as a result of the speedy, rapid changes. Now, there's a difference between the industrial revolutions, the previous industrial revolutions, and the fourth industrial revolution, in that with the previous industrial revolutions, the technology was there to replace the high-skilled workers and to complement the lower-skilled workers. Whereas with the fourth industrial revolution, it is vice versa. It is replacing the lower-skilled workers. Now, I always like to start my presentations with a quote. And the quote for today is, "Education is not the answer to the question. Education is the means to the answer to answer all the questions." Now, why this quote is important to me is that if education is not the answer to the question, and looking at higher education institutions, are we going to be relevant in the years to come if our students find other means to get the answers to all the questions that they might have, that they could have got through education? Which is why continuous research needs to be done in order for us to check whether indeed we are still relevant and how can we remain relevant as higher education institutions. Now, this is just a rundown of the topics that I will be covering during the presentation. Firstly, I just want to mention that with the fourth industrial revolution, it has changed the way in which higher education is understood. We have seen this with the COVID-19, where we have moved from the traditional face-to-face to online learning. So the COVID-19 has actually pushed us to adapt to the fourth industrial revolution even faster. There are a number of advantages that have come with the fourth industrial revolution and that have come with information communication technology, as it is actually improving the efficiency and the effectiveness of the administrative function. It also leads to the learning and research, which is individualized, and it improves the current and teaching research techniques. So we need to understand, in order for us to be able to adapt to the fourth industrial revolution and to the technologies, we need to have an understanding that it is not there to replace us as the lecturers and the administrators. It is there to enhance our teaching. Now, one of the things that we can use in order to prepare for the future of the higher education in order to remain relevant is the emerging technologies. Now, if you look at the fourth industrial revolution, it has led to a number of emerging technologies within the universities and also within the industry at large. So these emerging technologies are drastically novel, and they are fast-growing technologies which persist over time and which can have a huge impact on the socio-economic spheres. So one of the challenges that we have in Africa is that our graduates are not employable. We have these graduates, a lot of graduates who are staying at home because they are finding it hard to find employment. So now we need to get to the bottom of that. We need to get to the root cause of why is it that our graduates are not being employed. One of the reasons could be because when we look at the emerging technologies in higher education and the emerging technologies within the industry, now the industry meaning where these graduates are going to be working, are they linked? Is that linked? Are the emerging technologies that we use in our universities linked to the emerging technologies in the industry? Because if they're not linked, it means that the graduates that we are producing are not going to be the graduates that are needed by the industry. So we need to work together with the industry to find out what are the emerging technologies that they are using so that we can use the same technologies to upskill our students so that they can be able to cope with the technologies in the labor market. And the education department can be in a position to provide the labor markets with the relevant graduates. Now, one of the emerging technologies that we are using at higher education institutions is the learner management system. With the learner management system, it is a web-based software platform that provides an interactive online learning environment and automates the administration, organization, delivery, and reporting of educational content and learning outcomes. So there are a number of examples of learner management systems which are used across Africa by different universities, from your Moodle, Blackboard, WordPress, and Drupal, and many more. The learner management system provides teachers and students with an online classroom that reinforces learning processes, and it has also changed the perspective of learning and so forth. Now, what I'm going to be looking at is how can we use the learner management system in order for us to remain relevant in the future, in order for us to prepare for the future of higher education, in order for us to remain relevant. So there are a number of steps that we can take using learner management system, which will actually equip us with that. Now, firstly, we need to look at something that is called data-driven instruction. That is putting together a database of information about the students in each classroom and using that information to improve the quality of teaching and learning. So this is all made possible by the learner management system, because if you had to put together a database manually, it is going to be difficult. And most of the lecturers will not want to do something like that because it's going to take up a lot of time. But now, since we have learner management systems in place, we need to use it for data-driven instruction. So we all know that students are different. They have different abilities. They learn in different ways. Their level of understanding is different. So data-driven instruction actually allows you to see how are the students learning, the different ways of the students learn, the different ways in which students learn, and the different needs of students. So it allows you to actually analyze that data, which shows you the different levels of students' understanding so that you can tailor-make your curriculum in order for it to meet the needs of the students in the way improving the quality of teaching and learning. So what is important is that the school leadership must take the lead in building a culture of data-driven instruction. There are a number of steps that one needs to follow when you need to conduct data-driven instruction. Firstly, you use your learner management system for data collection, where you gather all the information from your class assessment. The nice thing about doing all your assessments online is you get to, the data is automatically recorded on the system. So if it is automatically recorded, then it makes it easier for you to create an online database. So once you have all of this information, you need to sort it out. And that is where now the system itself, the learner management system, no matter which system you are using as the university, it will allow you to see the patterns within that data. So it will allow you to see the patterns as to which questions were difficult for students and so forth. Then you need to take action where now you need to have time to reteach certain ideas. Now, when you look at data-driven instruction, it is not new. It's something that has been there for years, but then many universities are not using data-driven instruction. We only go as far as understanding the what students know versus what students don't know. If you ask, a lot of lecturers will tell you, I know my students, when it comes to this question, they don't do well with this question. So that is something that is a norm where you find throughout all universities where you know that, okay, when I set this question, this is the one where they don't really perform well. But do you ever take it a step further to understand why is it that they don't understand that section? Why is it that they do so badly in that section? So that is where data-driven instruction comes in together with learner management system. So the main focus should not only be on what, it should also be on why and how. So the why is the way you understand why did they miss the information? Is it because they were distracted? Maybe they were not listening? Or is it because of the way that you are presenting it? Or can it be because of any other reason? And also, how? How can this be retaught in a way that the information sticks in their mind? So how did they learn the topics that they understood? So you look at what it is that they understood. How did you teach that? Maybe use a different mode so that you can see, okay, maybe if I do it in this way, this is how it's going to help. So the learner management system is the driver of data-driven instruction. So with data-driven instruction, it's more specifically generating the necessary data to answer the what, why, and how. That way you are more student-centered and the student can see that you really care about their progress. It's not only about the university making money or the throughput of the university. They can see that, you know, this institution really cares about us. That way you will be able to retain more students. And also, you need to know what is going on in the student's head so that you can be able to assist them, so that you can be able to improve the quality of your teaching and to understand what is happening in the classroom to direct the teaching and learning. Now, the next tool that you can use together with learner management system, or rather through learner management system, is knowledge management. Now, with knowledge management, it is a tool that can assist organizations to gain a competitive advantage. Most of you might have heard the phrase saying that knowledge is power. The more knowledge an institution has, the more powerful that institution will be. So if you want to remain relevant, you need to make sure that you have a proper system that is able to manage your knowledge as an organization. And that is where most of the institutions are failing. Now, the learner management system of the 21st century is its ability to capture, curate the best knowledge from within the organization. With the learner management system as an e-learning platform, since it assists lecturers in the management of their courses, it also assists with knowledge management. Now, if you look broadly at knowledge management, it's all about putting together the people, the processes, and the technology. And the best way to do that, to bring all of these three legs together, is via knowledge management, a learner management system. Now, with knowledge management, what is happening is you need to make sure that as an institution, you make the most of your organization's hidden knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge within the organization. A lot of people are working in silos, doing their own thing instead of sharing the knowledge. So you need to have a knowledge management system, which is operated under learner management system, which is going to help you to now make the most of this hidden knowledge within the organization. Firstly, you need to create a space for sharing by linking all your communication channels to this learner management system. That way, you know that's all the communication that happens, where maybe if a student is asking a particular question and it is answered through that learner management system, that answer is going to be kept there for any other student who will have the same question later on. You need to build your intellectual capital as an organization and the learner management system makes this easier, where you find the real experts who can assist. So with this one, you need to identify the expert. Sometimes when you use the word expert, a person might say, no, I'm not an expert, because they think an expert is someone who knows everything. So maybe if you don't use the word expert and you have different fields of study and you say anyone who has knowledge on this field, they can register to assist people on that field with giving knowledge in that field. Then that will actually help you to build your intellectual capital in a way that will actually build your database of your experts that is managing your knowledge management through learner management system. You must also get to know your audience, get your audience involved, which means that you need to get everybody involved, right from the executive management to the students, because sometimes even the best ideas might come from the students. So it's not only the executive management who have all the answers, the students also have bright, innovative ideas. So you need to make the learning platform more appealing, where you use more gamification on these learner management systems. and offering virtual rewards. For example, if there is a problem that needs to be solved, then you can put up the problem on the system, and then you get students or the staff to solve the problem, and whoever solves the problem in the best way can get a reward. So that way you are building on your intellectual capital, and you are building your knowledge management through your learner management system. Then you must also, very important, realize that you will never be finished. With knowledge management, knowledge updates all the time. So you need to make sure that you update your system all the time, and you will never be finished. This is a continuous process. Then the next thing that we need to look at is the way that we do our assessments. I think it's very clear now, since the COVID-19, that the way that we were doing our assessments is not really working anymore. The way that I was assessed as a student 20 years ago cannot be the same way that we are assessing students now. So before, yes, every module you had to write an exam. You had 2 tests, 1 assignment, and then you had an exam, sit-down exam. Is it really necessary to have an exam nowadays in terms of assessment? Are those exams really effective? Because I know in the olden days, what we used to do, myself included, as a student, you used to just go and cram everything so that you know it for that exam time. Then you write it down. And then after the exam, you've forgotten about it. So now we need to make sure that we have lifelong learning. So the type of training that is provided should tell us the type of assessment that you are going to give the students. And why not also incorporate in-service training into your assessments? Maybe towards the end of the degree of a person, add some in-service training there so that these students can have some work exposure to become more, so they can be more employable in the labor market. So if you really want to be relevant, that is one of the ideas that you can incorporate, the in-service training. Even if it's not for 6 months, it can be for 3 months. Even if it's for a month, at least that's that form of exposure to the work environment. You need to look at the learning objectives, and they need to be redefined. How often you assess is also very important. I know a lot of lecturers will say that if you assess too often, it means that you are bombarding students with a lot of work. But if you assess often and then you move on, then it might not really be bombarding them, but then it depends on the type of assessment that you are giving them. So it's important to understand how often should you be assessing the student. Is it really necessary to study the whole semester and then do a final exam at the end? When that can become too much for the students. You need to make sure that through your assessment, you have a combination of different types of assessments, like using videos as well, because let's say you are doing marketing, you can have an advert, and then you can have students as a form of assessment analyzing that advert, what went right in that advert, what went wrong, and how could they have done it better. So you need to use more interesting ways for students to learn using videos, understanding that students are different and they learn in different ways. Because currently, what most of the institutions did when they moved online, they took everything that was on face-to-face and they just moved it online, which is not the way that it's supposed to be done. Then you need to also provide feedback. Feedback is very important in that the students need to know how they are doing, which is why we need to set randomized rules for question pools, where when the student has done a quiz, for example, a multiple choice quiz, immediately they can get the results. So they get immediate feedback. So with the learner management system, it's very, it assists a lot when it comes to the assessments. It assists when it comes to giving feedback, immediate feedback to students. They don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks in order for them to get feedback. They can get feedback immediately. So that's the power of the learning management system. And also to review. Review is very important because the learner management system allows you to check the emerging patterns when you do your review. What was, where are the students doing well and where are the students failing? And so that you can better align now your teaching based on the review patterns that you have seen. Then you identify the areas in which the students are struggling with. And then you need to have surveys, post-assessment surveys or post-exam surveys, so that you find out from the students as well how they would like to be taught. What did they find worked for them and what did they find does not work for them? And all of this is made possible by the learner management system, where you just do it online. And the nice thing about the learner management system is that if you do it online, it even gives you graphs and bar charts so that you can visually see the patterns, and you can visually see the results from your surveys. Now, before I conclude, there's a study that I did on the factors that are influencing customer value at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So this is one of the universities in KwaZulu-Natal. So this study I wanted to understand what is it that students value the most. So I looked at a number of independent variables and dependent variables, and I discovered that students value the service delivery quality, the IT infrastructure of the learner management system, and the perceived usefulness. So I was testing the learner management system to see what it is that students value the most within that learning management system. So now it's very important that every institution does this to see what it is that students would appreciate the most with the learner management system so that we can make the learner management system more user-friendly to students. And I have there on the side that the most powerful way to grow is to deliver value to a customer. And as higher education institutions, our customers are our students. So if we want to retain our students, if we want to be relevant in the long run, we need to make sure that we deliver what is of value to them. And for us to do that, we need to understand what is of value to them. So we need to do continuous engagement with the students so that we can understand exactly what it is that is of value to them. So now in conclusion, I just want to end with a quotation. The future depends on what we do in the present. So this is a quotation by Mahatma Gandhi, where whatever decisions that we take now as higher education institutions, we need to understand that the impact thereof, we might see some of the impact now, but most of the impact will come at a later stage. So sometimes you will find that some institutions, they will make short-term decisions just to solve the symptoms of a problem and not the root cause. And that ends up messing up the future of that higher education institution. So it's very important that whatever decisions we make now to make sure that we remain relevant as higher education institutions in Africa, we understand that that is going to impact our future, the future of the higher education institutions. Okay, I think I've come to the end of the presentation, and now I will be taking questions. Okay, I'm just trying to read the questions on the side. Okay, one of the questions is, what is the role that a university like you can use to curb the rate of unemployed graduates that spend an excess of 5 years in an institution in hopes of getting a dream job? Okay, thank you for your question. We as higher education institutions need to make sure that we engage with the industry in order to find out exactly what is it that the industry is looking for, so that the graduates that we are producing are the graduates that are required by the industry. So what we have started here, what actually happens here at Nelson Mandela, we also have some alumni who will come back to us and say, I want to give back to the community. So I want to give internship to some of the graduates within your organization. So what we do is we will tell the graduates within our organization that there is this type of opportunity. So the best thing is for the universities to work together with the higher education institutions in order to close that gap, because there must be something that is missing, that is lacking between the higher education institution and the industry, so that these graduates can be employable in the long run, so that we can understand when they are looking for internship, what type of graduates are they looking for. And when I mentioned at the beginning, I said that we need to also look at the emerging technologies, because you find that we have all these things that we teach, which is the theory and everything. But when it comes to the emerging technologies, we do not concentrate much on these emerging technologies. The emerging technologies that are used in the labor market, because now in the labor market, they are looking for people who have who are innovative. So what are we doing as higher education institutions to make sure that these students become innovative? So in our teachings, we need to teach them real life problems using real life scenarios so that they can come up with innovative ideas to solve these real life scenarios. And that is going to assist them to get employment in the real world. Then the next question is, what is the role that okay, no, it's the same question. Okay, so there's only one question in the meeting chat. I'm not sure if I have any other questions.
Hello, Ayanda. Hope you're doing good. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you with us. So we have a lot of questions that is coming in. So what we're going to do is we're going to email you the questions so that you can go ahead and reply to them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful session. It was a pleasure having you on board.